Hi everyone, I am at the Auckland Med School about to start my fecal matter treatment. Here are the capsules. These were stored at minus 80 degrees and I need to eat them quickly before they thaw too much. So we're going to get underway and then we're going to tell you all about it. So here we go, capsule number 1. Here we go. One of my friends called these crapsules. I thought that was pretty cool. Might be some marketing you want for later. They don't look like poo or smell like poo. It's really not off-putting to swallow them, by the way.
They're like handmade chocolates.
Yes. And they're enclosed in a double capsule so that they make it through your stomach acid to your colon. Nearly halfway. Yeah. One of my friends said, you're not someone who ever takes shit from anyone, but I guess there are some exceptions. I thought that was a pretty cool comment.
I would prefer to say it's the bacteria from them. It's not the waste matter. It's the bacteria all cleaned up. They've been washed.
Yep, well washed. This is just the bacteria, not the actual poo. Yeah, it's really not that off-putting. But it's a very interesting story to hear about this bacteria, so we'll tell you about it. Final funny comment from people, which hopefully most viewers are not even going to get this joke, but someone said, this is your 1 girl 20 cups moment. Hopefully you don't get it. For anyone who doesn't get it, don't try to work it out, but it did make me laugh. Anyone who gets that reference will definitely have a laugh. 2 to go. Done. Yep. So they're feel a little bit cold in your tummy temporarily, but they warm up pretty fast. So come and join me, because this is very exciting. Thanks for joining us. Right. So this is Professor Wayne Cutfield. He's doing the research, and he said he'd come and tell you a bit about this FMT, because it's so interesting. So what's some of the background to it?
It is, Mel. So what Mel has just taken are the cleaned up gut bacteria from what we call super donors. So these are people who are incredibly healthy and they are rigorously screened. So of those potential donors, people who want to be donors, about 5 out of 100 make it. The rest are excluded. And that's because our criteria are so rigorous. We don't want to transmit anything from the donor to a recipient like yourself. They need to have very healthy lifestyles too. So it is a pretty rigorous process. So these are the gut bacteria from super donors put inside 1 capsule and then a 2nd capsule. And as Mel mentioned, that's to resist the stomach acid. Otherwise, the stomach acid will chew these bacteria up. They really wouldn't make it through our very acidic stomach. And those capsules end up breaking down and releasing the bacteria in the bowel, which is exactly where you want them to be, because that's where their new home is going to be. And for Mel, with Clostridium difficile, that's an infection in which this nasty bacteria has kind of taken over the gut, and other bacteria have been sort of squeezed out. So by introducing healthy bacteria, they'll compete against the Clostridium difficile and push the Clostridium difficile away. And we expect that to lead to cure.
Yeah, because it seems, given that C. diff happens because of too many antibiotics in the first place, and then the treatment is more antibiotics.
A different kind of antibiotic, but you're right. And unfortunately, for many people, the antibiotic doesn't work, and so they
No.
kind of get stuck.
Yeah.
And
I think that's happened for me because,
yeah,
I've done 10 days of the vancomycin.
Yep.
The first day got a bit worse, but then the next 5 all improved. But then the last 3, I've just been descending into symptoms again.
Yep.
So, yeah, I'm so pleased I'm in the trial group that does
Yep.
get the
Yep.
FMT.
This is the only trial of its kind in this country, so you're in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, and so I'm curious about some of the other perceived uses for FMT. I know some of them are still under research.
Yeah, so some of them we can talk about, some of them we can't, unfortunately, because they're still ongoing.
Yeah.
And we don't have the data yet published, although we've processed it. So we've done a number of interesting trials. Perhaps one of the most important trials that we've done is in which we treated a group of obese teenagers. And we hope that FMT might lead to weight loss. And in our original trial, we followed them up for 6 months. And the thing that we found was that, first of all, the gut bacteria, these super healthy gut bacteria that they took, they did indeed get established, roomed in and flourished. So they didn't just pass through, because that was a big concern, they just go straight through. No, that wasn't the case. They stuck around, they flourished. So after that 6 months, they were still flourishing. There wasn't any difference in weight between the two groups after 6 months, although metabolic syndrome was better, which is higher blood sugars, higher blood pressure, higher blood lipids, too much tummy fat. So that's not a condition you want to have, and that seemed to get a whole lot better. Then we followed that same group up 4.5 years after the single treatment, and there was indeed a difference of more than 11 kilos between the two groups.
Wow, okay.
And less metabolic syndrome and less tummy fat and less waist circumference. So all of those are positive outcomes after a single treatment. And when we checked those original gut bacteria that they took, they were still there. They were still flourishing. So a single treatment, 4.5 years later, they were still there and flourishing. So that's that's an important finding, really.
Yeah.
And now we are in the process of identifying which the bacteria are that have created these benefits. Of the thousands of bacteria in the whole gut microbiome, transfer. And we think we've identified those bacteria, and we're growing them up, and we're going to test those to see if that particular combination of a handful of bacteria could lead to these improvements, because then it's easier to grow those bacteria up. Relying on human donors is a very complicated and expensive business to do. It's fine in proof of concept trials, but you can't scale that up. It's just not possible.
Sounds the cost that you were saying
it's huge.
Today is just enormous.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is for each treatment course.
And the risk as well of what else comes through from a donor.
Well, exactly. And the risk to humans or other humans in terms of transmitting conditions and diseases and infections and such like. We've just completed a trial in anorexia nervosa, and there's some really interesting findings that are very, very soon to appear. We have the Diff trial ongoing, and we have just completed a trial in autism to see whether it improves gut health and well-being in those with autism. And we're analysing that data as we speak, so we don't actually have any data, any results yet, but we will soon have them.
It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it will be interesting. So, a lot happening, and there's been so much promise about the benefits of gut microbiome treatments and the impact it can have on a whole range of different conditions. But until you actually do clinical trials, you can't be sure.
No.
So we can't assume that what we find in mice will automatically translate to humans. And association studies showing if you have a certain condition, your gut microbiome is all unbalanced. That doesn't mean that if you correct it, it'll fix that condition or help that condition. You can only do that by proper trials, and then you really understand what difference it truly makes.
Totally.
And that's where we're at.
Yeah. It's interesting as well, you were telling me about how some of the unexpected, not so good effects where people took on conditions from their donor. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
So that's why we do such rigorous screening, and there are some anecdotal cases that have been reported in which a woman who had C. difficile infection had been healthy and very slim all of her life. Her daughter was overweight and rapidly gaining weight. Her daughter was the donor, and so she provided the gut bacteria for the mother. The mother took the gut bacteria, and her C. diff was cured, which was great because she'd had it for months and months and months. unfortunately, then the mother started gaining a lot of weight.
Yeah.
And it's not just transmitting infections, but the gut microbiome influences a lot of our body's metabolism, even our behavior, and you don't want to transmit inadvertently something that might be undesirable to another patient. You know, that it's the gut microbiome is involved in immune regulation, and that includes things like common things like asthma and eczema. And imagine if you inadvertently transmitted asthma to somebody who didn't have asthma.
I've never had asthma in my life. It would be bad if I got asthma.
Yeah. So, you know, there are theoretical risks, and you minimize that by making sure that the donors don't have any of these conditions. And that's why I think for those who think, well, I do know online that there have been those who have decided that they'll organize their own gut microbiome fecal transplant and use a friend. That's potentially dangerous because of the risk of not only infection from your friend who may be completely well but harbour some nasty bacteria, or they could inadvertently transmit some other condition that you may not have known about that they had, and then you suddenly acquire. So it does need to be done in very carefully controlled, ideally research environment.
Makes sense.
Fashion.
I can see how people get desperate though, you know, when this is, you can't just go to your doctor and pay for this at the moment, can you?
No,
you know,
it's not easily readily available.
No, you're so right. It's I really do hope at some point, you know, it is more accessible in a way that means people can safely do it.
I mean, what we hope to do from our C. diff trial ultimately is, as I mentioned before, with our obesity metabolic syndrome trial, is to actually identify which of the bacteria
and then just grow them.
Exactly, and then grow them and not need to rely on human donors. And you get rid of all of those risks, risks of infection, risks of transmitting other human conditions. And then it becomes much more readily available and more widely available throughout the country, because at the moment our trial's pivoting in Auckland, and it is difficult for people who live well out of Auckland to try and access our treatment, although we have had several patients who have found out about us and got themselves to us from various parts of the South Island.
Yeah, well, it's worth it. I mean, C. diff is awful, and it just goes on and on and on. You know, like for me now, I've probably had diarrhea for 5 weeks out of 6. You know, I've lost 8 kilos. And you just think, I want to do something to fix this. So, I was so thrilled
and that is typical.
That I could be in the trial.
That's typical of patients who suffer from C. diff. And those, and a big portion of those get recurrent C. diff, so they keep getting courses of antibiotics for C. diff, and they don't really seem to work for very long, and then they get a recurrence and a recurrence, and it just goes on.
And you think, oh, thank goodness. Like for me, I got better because I had my Egypt bug, then I had the antibiotics, and then, you know, I was better for about a week to 10 days, and then it all starts up again. So I'm like, oh my gosh. So I have high hopes that this will be my exit point from the C. diff world.
That's what we hope for you. That's what we hope for you.
You also were saying yesterday about the probiotics currently on the market. That was quite interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there's much hype about probiotics. The difficulty with a lot of commercially available probiotics is they don't undergo the same sort of rigorous quality control that, say, drugs have. A lot of the bacteria that are taken are anaerobic bacteria, and so they live in a low oxygen, no oxygen environment. And so if they're exposed to oxygen, they're not going to survive. And some probiotics, or many probiotics, at the time you take them, the bacteria are dead, or they're going to get killed off through the passage through the stomach. Now, there are some exceptions, spore-forming bacteria, but as a generalization, they struggle to get standard probiotics struggle to deliver gut bacteria into the bowel.
And it's a massive industry. People are spending so much money and potentially just consuming dead bugs.
And you saw, and you've seen the way in which we've given you your bacteria. They were deeply frozen in suspended animation. They were prepared in a low, no oxygen environment, and then placed in capsules to protect them from air and light. So, and then
I swallowed them before
they
frozen.
Exactly.
Before they thawed.
Exactly. So that by the time those capsules are breaking down, those bacteria are not exposed to oxygen, and they can settle, they get room into your bowel. And we know that that's what happens because we've studied lots and lots of people in our trials, and that's what happens. The bacteria arrive and they just settle in.
Yeah. So then, years later, you could, unless you had more antibiotics that thrash them out, you could expect that the good bugs are still.
4 years later is a long time. I mean, they may drift a bit over time. And of course, one of the, if it turns out that they are helpful in certain conditions, it may be that you require an occasional top up, but we're not talking about every day, every week, every month even.
Right.
We're talking about occasional top ups.
Which is then far more commercially possible.
Yeah, and it's more palatable for people too. It means you don't have to keep taking something regularly. It comes at an inconvenience and a cost.
Yeah. I normally drink fresh kefir every day, which I figured must be better than the powdered capsules of probiotics because it's live. I mean, I've just grown it myself, and I've poured it through a strainer and drunk it immediately. So, certainly my skin improved a lot on that. So maybe
there are two things when you take bacteria like that. There's the bacteria themselves, but you're also swallowing the products they make. And so even some probiotics, if there are benefits, it may well come from the products that the bacteria have previously made that are in the mix, and that they can be helpful. I think if you had access to our capsules, the acid-resistant capsules, and you could pop it in a capsule, then you're going to deliver. You'll have a much more successful delivery system in terms of successful rooming in of the bacteria, basically. We call it engraftment.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, well, it's very exciting. So when could people look online and see some of these studies you've talked about published? When they're going to be available?
The anorexia nervosa anxiety trial, those results will be out early in the new year.
Oh, really?
They'll see them, yep. And there's some really interesting findings coming from that trial that have wider relevance to those beyond those who have anorexia nervosa. And the autism trial, I would think within a few months.
Oh, so they're quite soon.
Yeah, pretty soon. Yep. And we have more trials that we are currently planning, so they're yet to get launched.
And the C. diff trial is still a long way off.
The C. diff trial creeps on. The incidence of C. diff has sort of fallen about as you mentioned to me the other day, almost following COVID. So whether there's been less transmission, human to human transmission, it isn't clear, but it's clearly fallen quite a lot, which is kind of a good thing until you're doing a clinical trial where you need to treat enough patients to see an outcome. But no, that's generally a good outcome. So we'll continue to finish that trial because it's an important trial. It could change the way in which C. diff is managed in this country going forward.
Totally, because it's been interesting on my Facebook channel since I said I had it. How many people have come forward saying, "Oh, I had that for months," and I'd never heard of it until getting it myself. But it does seem like it's around. So it's not uncommon, but it really is. It's quite intrusive. It's really unpleasant. Yeah. It's been pretty bad. I haven't enjoyed the experience.
No, it's not something that you would choose.
No, but it's so interesting to now be part of this. So very pleased to be here. And
thank you for joining our trial.
Yeah, and I will keep sending all you guys updates on how I feel, and when I do it's 12 week, isn't it? 12 weeks stool sample to see how it's all going. So I'll let you know the results.
Yeah. We follow you up for 12 weeks just to be sure that you're well past it and you haven't had any recurrences. But generally speaking, most patients who are going to respond are going to respond really quickly. And it sounds like that's already happening.
Yeah. So you mean within a day or two?
Within days usually.
Usually
not weeks. You're a whole lot better within days. Yep.
Yeah, well, I'm certainly improved since yesterday doing our first round. Yep. So well, awesome. So I hope we've inspired you all. Sorry that we're giving you all these ideas, but then we're saying, it's not available and you can't get it, which is a little bit of a sad part
I
to
would
the story.
say multiple times every day I have requests from all around the country, all around the world, people asking for EMTs for various conditions, but we're really only bound to be able to do trials and recruit people into trials that we have running. We just can't treat anybody
Yeah.
who would like treatment as much as they would like it, or we even want to pay for it. That's not possible.
No, which is it makes sense. It's just sad for people who are so desperate.
Yeah.
But are there any new conditions that you're going to be trialing soon that people could contact you
I
for?
think we're going to. We're planning on a trial of in obesity, looking at whether you can use the combination of the new weight loss drugs and an FMT to be able to get off the weight loss drug, because it's otherwise pretty hard to get off. Once you start, it's hard to get off. That will be a really important trial. So we have a number of other trials that we are beginning to plan as we get this phase of trials completed. We often run about 2 or 3 clinical trials in parallel at one time.
Right. Okay. Well, if anyone has obesity issues, you may want to contact Wayne to be in his next trial.
Adolescents and young adults is probably where we're going to be pitching that.
Okay.
Where we think we can have the greatest long-term benefit, because you can reverse a lot of the obesity-related complications in younger people than in older people.
What about things like cancer? Is there future?
Well, look, there's almost everywhere where you look, because the gut microbiome has some immune regulating properties. So the question is, how would that fit into co-therapy for cancer?
There's potential.
And gut microbiome treatment, there aren't, C. diff is the exception where you can actually cure it. Yeah. What it will ideally what it will do for many conditions is to improve them, but not cure them. So if people think, oh, if I have an FMT and I have whatever condition,
it'll be gone.
I'll be completely cured. It's likely to alleviate it, not cure it.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's a useful distinction, because in this trial we're just looking to fix me, and I never had to see it.
Our plan is for you to be cured.
But it won't necessarily be that for the chronic conditions.
No.
And that's where I think some of the work I do fits in, because I don't do any work on acute conditions like this. All my work is on chronic conditions. Right. And then there is quite a large component of the role of the stress response and thinking patterns, belief patterns, trauma, all those things, which I see very good results for many chronic conditions by working with that emotional side. So maybe there's a combo of something like FMT as well as doing the emotional work to resolve them.
Absolutely. There's a connection between the brain and the gut-brain axis.
Massively.
And we know that that gut bacteria make bacterial products that actually reach the brain and influence behavior, appetite. So they can have a bigger influence on us than we actually think.
And given that 95% of serotonin is produced in the gut, it makes sense that if your gut health is bad, that's going to affect your serotonin and affect your mood. And so lots of good opportunities for you guys out there. Even if you can't get your capsules right now, you can still do the work to, one day it'll be available.
One day they may well be available as a sort of a bespoke probiotic. In other words, a special cocktail mix wrapped up in this sort of multiple capsules that people will be able to take for specific indications. So there'll be certain bacteria for a particular indication. It's not this cocktail of bacteria that does everything. No. Life is more complicated than that. There are certain bacteria that can help alleviate certain things.
So there's a lot of potential. I definitely see this as a big future field. And in the meantime, doing courses like The Switch, so that you work on your emotions, thoughts, stress response, all those things, that can help your body to be in a better state to fix things anyway. So lots of options. Right. Thank you.
Okay.